Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to beat 9% of the crowd in 2025, you've got to do more than grind. You've got to change the game. Most people will wake up, go through the motions, scroll, compare, give up. But not you. Today, I want to pull back the curtain on what separates those who ride the wave, who own their future, from those who watch it pass by. Because make no mistake, 2025 will belong to the few who are willing to do the uncomfortable, who are willing to learn twice as fast, push twice as hard, and refuse to settle. If you stay in your comfort zone, you'll be streaming content. If you leave it, you'll be creating movements, so buckle up. By the end of this, you'll have a blueprint, not vague motivational fluff, but actionable strategies to put you miles ahead of everyone else before the year even settles. The truth is most people are living on autopilot. They wake up, they scroll, they eat, they work just enough to survive, and then they rinse and repeat. They never once question whether this cycle is building them into the kind of person who can win, who can dominate, who can live a life that others admire. And that's why 99% of people stay average forever. The difference isn't luck. It isn't some magical opportunity. It isn't even about intelligence. It's about mindset. It's about making a decision that you will no longer play by the rules of the average. You will play relentlessly. Relentless means when everyone else takes a break, you take one more rep. When everyone else is tired, you push through. When everyone else chooses comfort, you choose growth. Average asks, what's the minimum I need to do to get by? Relentless asks, what's the maximum I can extract from myself today? That's the shift. That's the invisible line between those who coast and those who conquer. Think about it. Average people are driven by feelings. If they feel tired, they rest. If they feel unmotivated, they wait. If they feel scared, they stop. But feelings are temporary, and those who are relentless understand that feelings don't dictate outcomes. Discipline does. Relentless people don't care how they feel. They care about the standard they set for themselves, and that standard never drops. It's not about being perfect. It's about being unstoppable in pursuit of progress. Now here's the hard part. Shifting from average to relentless isn't glamorous. It's ugly, it's uncomfortable, it's lonely. You will lose friends who can't keep up. You will face ridicule from people who don't understand why you're working late nights, why you're reading when others are partying, why you're building when others are just consuming. But the very fact that most people won't do it is exactly why you'll win. If it were easy, everyone would be living at the top. Relentless people carry a different belief system. They believe time is not infinite, so they treat every hour as currency. They believe failure is not a signal to quit, but a teacher to extract lessons from. They believe comfort zones are dangerous because staying there guarantees stagnation. They believe success is not an event, but a series of small, invisible choices stacked daily, and they live by those beliefs without compromise. Imagine two paths. One is wide, crowded, easy. That's the path of average. It's filled with entertainment, distractions, excuses, comfort, validation. Millions walk it every day. The other is narrow, steep, lonely. That's the path of relentless. It requires sacrifice, resilience, and consistency. Few are willing to walk it, but that narrow path leads to freedom, wealth, impact, and fulfillment. The question is not whether the path exists. The question is whether you'll choose it. When you adopt a relentless mindset, you start to rewire your brain. Suddenly, problems aren't obstacles. They're puzzles to be solved. Rejection isn't personal. It's redirection. Criticism isn't an attack, it's feedback. Every experience becomes fuel. Every failure becomes data. Every setback becomes a setup for a stronger comeback. And this is where average people fall behind because they see setbacks as signs to stop. You'll see them as proof you're moving forward, Relentless isn't about burning yourself out. It's about raising your standards so high that mediocrity can't breathe in your environment. It's waking up with purpose, not just waking up because your alarm told you to. It's planning your day, executing on it, and holding yourself accountable, even when no one is watching. It's replacing the question, what do I feel like doing, with what needs to be done. That one substitution will put you decades ahead of those who wait for motivation to knock on their door. Understand this. The shift happens in your mind before it happens in your results. You don't suddenly get rich and then decide to be disciplined. You don't suddenly get fit and then decide to be consistent. You become disciplined and consistent first, and then the results compound. Average people wait for external change before they change internally. Relentless people change internally, and the external world catches up. So here's the challenge. Are you willing to abandon average thinking? Are you willing to silence the voice that tells you to slow down, to take it easy, to do it tomorrow? Are you willing to replace it with a new voice that demands more from you every single day? Because that's the real separator, not talent, not circumstances, mindset. Average is everywhere, relentless is rare, and rarity is valuable. That's why the people who adopt this mindset will always rise above the noise, lead industries, build wealth, and shape the future. The rest will look at them and say they're lucky, but it's not luck, it's a decision you can make right now. Choose relentless and never look back. Everyone wants to do everything at once. They want to build 5 businesses, learn 10 skills, invest in 3 industries, post on every platform, and become good at all of it simultaneously. That's exactly why they stay average. They scatter their energy, they divide their attention, and because of that, they never become great at anything. The people who truly break through, the ones you look at and think are untouchable, built their empire on one thing. One skill, one foundation. They mastered it before they diversified. That's the truth most people don't want to hear because mastery requires sacrifice, and sacrifice isn't fun. When you focus on mastering a single skill, you are doing something almost nobody else has the patience to do. Everyone else is chasing the next shiny thing. One week they're into crypto, the next week they're starting a podcast, then they're trying dropshipping, and then they're quitting because nothing works. Nothing works because they never give it long enough to work. They never give themselves the chance to become world class. Imagine what happens when you spend years obsessing over one skill, studying it, practicing it, breaking it down, and rebuilding it until you are at the top of the game. People start coming to you. Opportunities start chasing you. You don't have to beg for attention. You attract it. Look at anyone who has built serious wealth or influence. They weren't dabbling in 20 things at once. They built dominance in one lane, then they expanded. The athlete who mastered basketball before building businesses, the entrepreneur who mastered selling before expanding into investing, the writer who mastered words before launching media companies. They all played the same game: focus first, diversify later. That's the playbook. Why does this work? Because mastery compounds. When you're exceptional at one skill, it creates leverage. That leverage can be transferred into other areas. If you master persuasion, you can build businesses, negotiate deals, raise capital, and influence movements. If you master coding, you can launch products, build tools, and automate systems. If you master storytelling, you can lead, inspire, and create platforms. The skill becomes a seed that grows into a forest, but if you plant 20 seeds and water none of them enough, you end up with a field of dead plants. There's also something powerful about focus. It builds identity. When you commit to becoming great at one skill, you start to see yourself differently. You're no longer dabbling. You're a practitioner. You show up every day, you refine, you study, you execute. That identity shift changes the way others see you too. People begin to associate you with excellence in that field. You become the go-to person, and once you're seen as the authority, doors open that were invisible before. The uncomfortable reality is this: mastery takes time. Years. Most people don't have the patience. They want overnight results, so they jump from skill to skill, hoping to stumble into something that sticks. But if you can delay gratification, if you can pour yourself into one skill while everyone else distracts themselves, you'll build a moat nobody can cross. Because while they're mediocre at many things, you'll be extraordinary at one thing. And extraordinary always wins. This doesn't mean you never diversify. It means you diversify from a position of strength, not weakness. Once you've built your core skill into something undeniable, you can branch out. You'll have the credibility, the resources, the network, and the confidence to take on new challenges, but you'll never lose your foundation. That foundation will always protect you, always generate value, always be the thing you can fall back on no matter what. Think about it like building a skyscraper. You can't lay 10 shallow foundations and expect to build 10 towers. They'll all collapse. You build one deep, solid foundation, and from there you rise higher than anyone else. Later, when the first tower is strong and stable, you can expand and build more. But without that first foundation, nothing stands. So if you're serious about getting ahead, stop trying to do everything at once. Ask yourself, what is the one skill that, if I became world-class at it, would change everything for me? Then commit, cut out distractions, stop hopping from one thing to the next, obsess over that skill until people know your name because of it. Master it so deeply that opportunities naturally flow in your direction. Once that happens, diversification won't be something you chase, it'll be something you're pulled into. Most people will never do this. They'll keep dabbling, keep starting and quitting, keep spreading themselves thin, and that's why they'll stay where they are. But if you choose mastery, you're playing a different game. You're choosing depth over surface, substance over noise, discipline over distraction. And in a world where everyone is busy being average at everything, being exceptional at one thing makes you unstoppable. That's how you rise. That's how you build real leverage. That's how you separate yourself from 99.9% of the world. Master first, diversify later. That's the formula. Everyone loves the big sprint, the burst of motivation that lasts for a week, the crash diet, the 60-hour grind, the sudden wave of productivity where they convince themselves they're finally on the right track. And then what happens? They burn out, they lose momentum, and they're back to square one. That cycle is why most people never make it past average. The winners, the ones who quietly rise above the rest, understand a different principle: consistency compounds. It's not the huge effort you put in once. It's the small effort you repeat daily that transforms your life. Think of it like money. If you save or invest a large sum once and then stop, your growth is limited. But if you put in consistent deposits every single day, no matter how small, compound interest turns those drops into an ocean. Habits work the same way. Success works the same way. A little progress, stacked day after day, creates momentum that becomes unstoppable. The key isn't intensity, it's longevity. Consistency beats talent. Consistency beats motivation. Consistency beats intelligence. Because while talent fades without practice and motivation disappears when life gets hard, consistency is there whether you feel like it or not. It shows up, it delivers, it accumulates. That's why average people who rely on short bursts always lose to the relentless few who keep stacking bricks every single day. Let's break this down. Imagine two people. The first person works out like crazy for 2 weeks, then quits for 3 months. The second person does just 30 minutes a day every day for the entire year. Who gets better results? It's not even close. The second person crushes the first, not because they worked harder in the short term, but because they worked smarter in the long term. They understood that compounding consistency always outperforms sporadic intensity. The same rule applies to learning. Read 10 books in a week and then stop reading for a year. You'll retain very little. Read 10 pages a day, every day. For a year, you'll finish multiple books and truly absorb the wisdom. This principle is universal. It applies to business, fitness, relationships, finances, creativity, and leadership. The person who shows up consistently will always build something solid while everyone else builds sandcastles that wash away with the tide. Consistency compounds because it creates momentum. At first, progress feels small, invisible even. You put in the work and see almost no result. That's where most people quit. But if you keep going, if you keep adding one brick a day, suddenly the wall starts to rise. Suddenly, the results become visible, and then something magical happens. Momentum takes over. Each day builds on the last, and the growth becomes exponential. But you only reach that stage if you stay consistent long enough to get there. The reason most people never reach it is because they don't trust the process. They want instant gratification. They want results today, recognition tomorrow, wealth next week. And when they don't get it, they give up. What they don't realize is that consistency looks boring in the short term, but extraordinary in the long term. The boring repetitions, the daily disciplines, the unglamorous grind, that's what compounds into greatness. Consistency also builds identity. Every time you show up, even in a small way, you reinforce the belief that you are the kind of person who follows through. You build self-trust, and that self-trust becomes a weapon. Because when you trust yourself, you no longer need external validation. You don't need someone clapping for you. You know who you are, and that quiet confidence is what separates those who build empires from those who barely start. Now, let's be clear. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. You'll have off days. You'll miss a step. But the difference between average and relentless is this: average people miss one day and quit. Relentless people miss one day and get right back to it. Consistency isn't about never failing, it's about always returning. You win by showing up again and again, even when you fall short. Here's the truth: the most powerful results in life aren't built by intensity. They're built by accumulation. One brick a day builds the wall. One rep a day builds the body. One sale a day builds the business. One page a day builds the book. It's slow, it's steady, it's deliberate. And because of that, most people won't do it. They'll keep chasing the highs, keep sprinting, keep burning out, and they'll keep wondering why nothing changes. But if you commit to compound consistency, your life changes in ways you can't imagine. You become unstoppable, not because you did something extraordinary once, but because you did something ordinary thousands of times until it became extraordinary. That's how you separate yourself. That's how you build something lasting. So ask yourself, are you going to keep chasing short bursts, or are you ready to build a life where consistency is your advantage? Because the ones who commit to daily progress, no matter how small, will look back in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, and realize they've left everyone else behind. That's the secret, not the sprint, not the burst, the compound power of consistency. It looks slow now, but it becomes unstoppable later. And once it starts working in your favor, no one can catch you. The world doesn't slow down for anyone. Technology doesn't wait until you're ready. It moves, it evolves, it disrupts, and it destroys those who don't adapt. And in 2025, the opportunities sitting in front of you are unlike anything humanity has ever seen before. We're living in an era where tools that once cost millions are now in your pocket. Artificial intelligence is rewriting industries, automation is restructuring jobs, and access to knowledge is no longer a privilege. It's free if you know how to use it. The only real question is, are you going to leverage it, or are you going to get left behind? Right now, most people are consumers of technology. They use it to scroll, to distract themselves, to kill time. They're on the apps, they're entertained, they're busy. But the difference between being ahead of the game and being swallowed by it is this. Are you a consumer or are you a creator? If you're just consuming, you're building nothing. If you're creating, if you're building, if you're applying, you're positioning yourself ahead of the curve. The gap between the two is massive, and in 2025, that gap will decide who wins and who fades. AI isn't just a buzzword anymore, it's a new foundation. It can write, it can analyze, it can design, it can optimize. And while most people will use it as a toy, the relentless few will use it as leverage. Imagine automating the things that slow you down. Imagine scaling ideas at a speed that wasn't possible 5 years ago. Imagine taking one person's capacity and multiplying it into 10. That's not the future, that's the present right now. The question is whether you're building workflows, systems, and businesses on top of it, or just watching it pass by. Remote work isn't just a trend, it's the default. Talent is no longer local, it's global. You can build a team across continents. You can tap into skills from anywhere in the world. That means your competition isn't the person next door. It's someone halfway across the planet who is hungrier, more disciplined, and more prepared than you. But it also means your opportunities aren't limited by geography anymore. You can sell, hire, and grow anywhere. The people who understand this won't just run businesses. They'll run borderless empires. The creator economy is another opportunity most people underestimate. Attention is the currency of this era, and platforms are the marketplace. In 2025, you don't need permission to build an audience, to start a movement, to distribute your work. You don't need a publisher, a network, or an investor. You need consistency, value, and the courage to put yourself out there. And when you combine content with technology, you create leverage at scale. One video, one idea, one product can reach millions without you leaving your desk. That kind of reach was impossible a decade ago. Now it's normal. The smart ones are already capitalizing on it. But let's get real. Leveraging technology isn't just about knowing what tools exist, it's about how you think. Most people will use these tools to cut corners. They'll ask AI to think for them. They'll use automation to avoid effort. They'll treat innovation as a shortcut. And because of that, they'll remain average. The real advantage is in using these tools to multiply your discipline, not replace it. To speed up your learning, not skip it. To scale your impact, not avoid the work. That's the distinction between those who thrive and those who collapse. The truth is, opportunities are everywhere, but they're invisible to people stuck in old ways of thinking. They still believe success is about working harder, not smarter. They still think opportunity is locked behind some gatekeeper. They still think they're limited by where they live or what degree they have. They don't see that the gatekeepers have lost their power, the walls have crumbled, and the only limitation now is how quickly you adapt. And adaptation isn't a one-time thing. It's not about learning one new skill and calling it a day. It's about making adaptation your lifestyle. Every year, every quarter, every month you ask, what new tools exist? What new platforms are growing? What industries are shifting? And how do I position myself at the front? Because if you don't ask those questions, someone else will, and they'll pass you while you're standing still. In 2025, the winners will be the ones who combine timeless principles, discipline, consistency, focus, with modern leverage AI, automation, global teams, digital platforms. It's the mix of old and new that makes someone unstoppable. If you only rely on hard work, you'll get outpaced by someone who works hard and smart. If you only rely on tools, you'll get destroyed by someone who uses tools but still puts in the relentless effort. The edge belongs to those who fuse both together. So ask yourself, are you just using technology or are you leveraging it? Are you scrolling or are you scaling? Are you waiting for opportunities or are you creating them? Because the reality is, the tools are here, the doors are open, and the only thing standing between you and the top 1% is whether you step forward or stand still. Most people will waste 2025 doing the same things they did in 2024, just with shinier apps. They'll stay stuck, they'll stay comfortable, and they'll tell themselves the game is rigged. But the few who wake up, the few who adapt, the few who take the tools in front of them and build relentlessly, they're the ones who will own the future. That choice is in your hands. Use the leverage or be leveraged. Build with it or get replaced by it. The opportunities are endless. The only real question is, will you take them? Failure is inevitable. That's the part most people don't want to hear. They want success without the scars, victories without the battles, growth without the setbacks. And because of that mindset, they never push hard enough, never risk enough, never put themselves in positions where they could fail. And that's exactly why they never succeed. The truth is simple. If you want to get ahead of 9% of people, you have to fail faster than them. Not once, not twice, but constantly. And more importantly, you have to learn from those failures faster than they do. That feedback loop is where the advantage lies. The average person sees failure as the end of the road. They try something, it doesn't work, and they quit. They attach their identity to the outcome, so when the outcome is bad, they see themselves as bad. Relentless people see it differently. They understand failure is data. Nothing more, nothing less. It's feedback about what didn't work, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be tested next. They detach their identity from the failure and use it as fuel. That mindset shift is everything. Think about the way innovation happens. No company builds a perfect product on the first try. They build, they release, they break it, they fix it, they refine it. They run tests, gather feedback, make adjustments, and run the process again. It's a cycle. Build, measure, learn. The faster that cycle spins, the faster progress compounds. The slower it spins, the more time gets wasted. And in a world moving as fast as 2025, speed of learning is more valuable than size, money, or resources. Failing fast doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean gambling everything without thought. It means moving quickly, testing small, and learning immediately. Instead of spending years perfecting something in theory, you put it into the world, get real feedback, and use that to improve. Most people will sit on ideas forever because they're afraid of criticism, afraid of rejection, afraid of looking stupid. By the time they finally act, the opportunity is gone. Meanwhile, the ones who act quickly, fail, and adjust have already lapped them multiple times. The faster you fail, the more you learn. The more you learn, the faster you adapt. And the faster you adapt, the harder it becomes for anyone else to catch you. That's the loop. It doesn't reward the smartest or the most talented. It rewards the most adaptable. The ones who turn every misstep into a stepping stone. Here's the other piece. Learning faster means extracting lessons without ego. Most people can't do that. When they fail, they make excuses. They blame the market, the timing, the people around them, the economy. They protect their pride instead of studying the truth. And because of that, they repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Those who learn faster drop the excuses. They ask hard questions. Why didn't this work? What can I change? What did I miss? They strip away the noise and focus on the signal. That's why their next move is sharper than the last. Think about it like iterations. Imagine you run 10 experiments in a year, and I run one. You fail 9 times, I fail once. On paper, it looks like I did better. But in reality, you've gained 9 times more lessons than me. You've tested, refined, and evolved 9 times faster. By the end of the year, you've got a system that works, and I'm still stuck at the starting line, protecting my pride. That's the hidden advantage of failing fast. It also builds resilience. The more you fail, the less power failure has over you. At first, it stings, it knocks you down, but after enough reps, you become immune. You stop fearing it. And once fear of failure disappears, you become dangerous because there's nothing left holding you back. Most people live paralyzed by what if it doesn't work. When you've failed enough times, your mindset shifts to what can I learn when it doesn't work. That small change makes you unstoppable. Operating with a fail fast, learn faster loop isn't just about speed, it's about rhythm. It's about building a culture internally and externally where testing is normal, feedback is expected, and improvement is constant. You're not aiming for perfection, you're aiming for iteration. You're always a little better than yesterday, a little sharper, a little more effective. And those small increments compound into breakthroughs. The truth is, you can't avoid failure. The only choice is whether you let it paralyze you or propel you. If you treat it like the enemy, you'll run from it and stay stuck. If you treat it like the teacher, you'll embrace it and accelerate. The people who will dominate 2025 and beyond are not the ones who get everything right. They're the ones who fail, learn, adjust, and repeat faster than everyone else. So don't waste time chasing perfection. Don't waste energy avoiding mistakes. Build, act, test, fail, learn, then repeat. That's how you outpace the competition. That's how you separate from the crowd. And that's how you turn failure from something that stops you into something that propels you. The ones who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail so often and so quickly that success has no choice but to emerge. That's the loop. That's the edge. That's the game. Here's the truth. Most people will start 2025 with great intentions and end it watching the same patterns repeat. But you're deciding right now that you will be different. You will do more than just show up. You'll level up regularly. You'll work when no one's watching, learn when no one demands, persist when no one praises. If you commit to these shifts, mind, set over convenience, mastery over multitasking, consistency over flashes, foresight over trends, learning over comfort, you won't just keep up. You'll be years ahead, so go ahead, make your move. Let 2025 be the year you leave the 99% behind, because the only thing standing between who you are and who you could be is the decisions you make today. Thank you. Now get to work.